Hey guys, Solid here and welcome back to another episode of Adventure News. This is just a quick update and we've got some juicy news for all us ADV addicts. We've got some solid information, see what I did there, on the Royal Enfield Himalayan 650. I haven't really reported on this before purely because there hasn't been any decent concrete evidence of what this bike is going to be, but that has changed. We've got two separate media outlets reporting that they have an insider at Royal Enfield who has confirmed what they're working on for the 650. So juicy details ahead. Let's roll that intro and get straight into it. So there's three major things to take away from this video. One is that there's going to be two model variants. The second big piece of information is that this is not going to be a hardcore off-roader. This is going to be an adventure tourer and a complete road model. Pay attention to that. This is not going to be a serious off-roader. They've said this is going to be less capable off-road than the current Himalayan 410. Regulate your expectations according to that. The other big piece of news that I wanted to get out straight away is they're intending for this to be released in 2024. So now that we know that, let's talk about the information that Royal Enfield have released about this bike, what they intend for this bike to have, look like and perform. So let's get into the specifications in more detail. We know there's two variants now. We know the release is in 2024. Those two variants Royal Enfield have stated, one's going to be a completely road-based bike, basically a standard road tourer that's going to be a little better at the distance riding than the Interceptor 650. The other one is going to be a soft off-roader or an adventure tourer, they've stated. And they've said that the looks are going to be 80 to 85% relevant to the current Himalayan 410. So they are going for that rugged, simplistic look. They've also stated that the adventure tourer version, the more off-roady version, will only have a 19-inch front wheel, not a 21. You can kind of see them setting the stage here for this definitely being an adventure tourer with some light off-road capability. They did say they still will equip it with a decent suspension to give it a decent amount of ground clearance, but it certainly won't be able to perform the same way the Himalayan 410 can. The exhaust is planned to be mounted higher than on the current Himalayan and the 650, so that's good news. Brakes, they've said, will be better. Well, that remains to be seen. Of course, they will be better than what is on the Himalayan, being a bigger bike. Hopefully, they'll be at least as good as the current 650s. They've said that the bike will also get a TFT screen with Bluetooth connectivity, so it's good to see them sticking in a 21st century like the rest of the adventure bikes. They've also said there's going to be multiple riding modes and also one level of traction control, so that's interesting and something we haven't seen from Royal Enfield yet. So they're obviously trying to bring a modern touch to these bikes, and this is what I like about Royal Enfield. Sure, they're not at the peak of development, but they just keep chugging away, making mild improvements and offering bikes to mere mortals. This really offers a whole different group of people the ability to get into the adventure market, and the fact that they keep making leaps and bounds as they have, rather than just sitting on their hands and currently pumping out bullet 500s, which they could have done for the rest of eternity, is really good. And I'm really happy that Royal Enfield have had so much success with the 650s because they did put in a lot of effort. They're really getting rewarded for that effort. So I hope that they continue that with this 650 Himalayan. The other thing they've said as well that's interesting is that it might not get the Himalayan name. Now, I'm guessing that's because they don't want to confuse people with how off-road capable this is. Perhaps they're saving that for their really off-road capable bike. Now, that's not saying that the current Himalayan is a real hardcore off-road motorcycle. It's definitely not that. It's definitely an easy-going gentleman's adventure bike if you like just putting along on the green lanes. So the fact that they've said this Royal Enfield Himalayan 650 will be less capable definitely signifies that this will probably be a dirt roads only, something along the lines of a V-Strom 650 in capabilities is what I'm thinking. So there's also a few more things to talk about here. One is the power of social media and talking on forums and us all having a dialogue about the bikes we want. It came out that Royal Enfield hadn't even been thinking of turning the 650 into an adventure bike. It was only 18 months ago that they first started looking into it. I think that signifies that the enthusiasm for a bigger version of the Himalaya obviously permeated the consciousness of Royal Enfield. Whether it was the forums chattering, or whether they got feedback from their customers, or whether it was just muppets like me making videos that they can never get away from, talking about bikes we want to see. Whatever it is, it's great to see that they're listening to the customers. So I think that's definitely a positive takeaway. The other thing I wanted to talk about is who I think this bike is for and what we should expect. I think the information we've got is pretty clear as to what bike we should expect. This is definitely not going to be a serious off-road adventure bike. This is going to be nothing like a Cemera 700. They've stated that this is going to be an adventure tourer and a soft off-roader. But that doesn't mean you can't go down dirt roads, you can't do even twin tracks that are fairly easy at a slow pace. I think there's definitely a market for this kind of bike. I seriously considered an Interceptor 650 at the beginning of the year. I'm absolutely in love with that bike. If they offered a more adventure-ready version of that Interceptor 650 and they were still able to maintain those really catchy looks, that would definitely be something I would be interested in. Something that's got a little more wind protection than Interceptor 650, maybe even a bigger tank. It's got that 19-inch front wheel. I think that would be fantastic. Make sure it has switchable ABS. I'd love to be able to at least turn off the rear ABS. That would be fantastic. But I think there is a big market for that. But I also think it's probably the easiest part of the segment to get into if you're making a middleweight adventure bike. The top end of the market is very crowded with the KTMs, the Teneras. It is very competitive and it costs a lot of money to develop bikes at the pointy end of the spectrum. This end of the spectrum, where the V-Strom, the CB500X reside, is far easier to make a bike that is a light off-roader, an adventure tourer at a great price. I think this is a great place for Royal Enfield to start, and I think this is really a showing that Royal Enfield understands what kind of brand they are. They're a brand that is known for really classic aesthetics that a lot of people appreciate, coupled with a fantastic price. Sure, you're not getting top quality stuff, you're getting good enough for your money's worth, and that's why I've really always had a soft spot for Royal Enfield, because they've brought motorcycles at a price that people can afford rather than these crazy expensive, huge behemoth motorcycles. I'm looking forward to this Royal Enfield, but I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. What do you think about Royal Enfield? Are you a little skeptical about their quality? Have you ridden the latest 650s that are actually really up their game quite a bit? And I'd also like to know from current owners, I know there's a lot of you who absolutely love these bikes. Are you looking forward to a 650 or are you hanging on to your 410? Let me know in the comments section down below. Side note as well, the Adventure News monthly wrap-up will be released next week. I do that at the end of each month now. Given the response I had from last month's monthly wrap-up, clearly this is something you guys want on a regular basis. So until then, don't forget to stay shiny side up, and I'll catch you in the next video, guys. See you later.